In recent years, more and more people have been making a life-changing decision, leaving the United States behind and starting a new chapter in Mexico. It's not just about the lower cost of living, the sunshine, or the food, although yes, all of that helps. It's about finding a different pace, a deeper sense of community, and a culture that embraces connection, not isolation. But here's the truth. Moving to Mexico is not just a change of address, it's a change of mindset. This video is a collection of stories from people who've made the move, who didn't just land in Mexico, but became part of it. They'll share the beauty, the challenges, the safety that isn't always shown on TV, and the warmth of people who are ready to welcome you if you come with respect. Because here's what matters most: integration. If you're thinking about moving to Mexico just to save money or escape something, but you're not willing to learn the language, understand the culture, or build relationships, you're missing the point. And chances are the experience won't be what you hoped. But if you come open-hearted, curious, and willing to embrace a new way of life, Mexico has a way of making you feel at home in ways you never expected. But before we begin, please make sure to leave a like so this video can get to those who really need to see it. And please consider subscribing to help us get up in the algorithm to pump out more content like this. We're enjoying making these. We learn a lot about what's happening outside the States from making these.
I finally did it. I finally moved out the country and I couldn't be any happier. This has honestly been a long time coming, and even though I didn't feel 100% ready, God told me to just go. There's so many reasons I decided to leave America, but I think the hardest part for me was leaving my family and my friends. That was tough because they didn't even know that I was moving. Nobody knew. And I had to keep it that way because I didn't want anyone trying to stop me or instill any doubt or fear in me. I mean, there's actually nothing scary about moving abroad. If you make a plan, you do your research, and have enough savings, why not? If that's what you feel called to do, what else would be stopping you? At least that's how I think. You only have one life to live, and I want to experience all there is to experience in this world. To really experience different cultures, learn a new language, and live like a local. My soul just needs that, and I'm so grateful for all the memories I made in America, but now it's time for something new, and this is only the beginning. So here's to creating your own path in life and living unapologetically fearless.
750 days since I moved to Mexico, this is what I've learned so far. If you want to make the move, it cost me, for a family of 3, about $10,000 USD. We sold everything that we had in the US, from our car to furniture, because there are fully furnished apartments or houses here in Mexico. And let me tell you, it will save you a headache. We literally came here with like 4 suitcases. When we got here, we just bought all the necessities and we were good. If you're thinking about moving to Playa del Carmen, look for housing across the highway. That usually separates from the tourist area to the more local area. You will find way more affordable housing. Honestly, I highly recommend it. Nice, quiet, gated communities, playgrounds, pools, and gyms. If you have kids, this is a big plus. Before you guys make the move, look for some online work. Or do what I did and just start your own online business. So having a car here is really not needed. You can get by with taxis or getting your own bike. But me personally, I just wanted to get my own car because at the end of the day, I like going whenever I want, as I please, especially if I'm going to Cancun or Tulum. Healthcare and dental is so much more affordable here. For Wi-Fi, I use Starlink. Peace!
The U.S. is a hard place to live.
Tiara moved to Mexico City in 2021 as a remote worker.
I loved it so much here that I decided to stay and got residency.
After about 9 months of living in the city, she was laid off from her job.
I decided to finally take the plunge into owning a restaurant.
Thank you for coming out to the first annual Juneteenth celebration.
You want a copy?
Tiara opened a soul food restaurant in January 2023.
So Black, Mexican, and kitchen in Spanish, and you put that all together and you have Black Cocina.
So everybody's happy, some aren't because of the economic problems that gentrification brings. But I think it's great. Like, this place is great, the community is great, the food is amazing.
How are you?
New York is an amazing city, but it's also very exhausting to live in consistently. And I just hit my 10-year anniversary since moving here last week. And as exciting as that is, and as much as I've loved it, I just don't really feel like I'm as fulfilled here as I could be. And it's not really hitting like it used to. Like, I love so many things about the city, but like there's so much of it that's like really draining and exhausting. Like when I go home to Atlanta, everything is easy. It's easy to do your laundry. It's easy to get groceries. It's easy to get in a car. It's easy to like pop over and grab some food. Like nothing here is easy. And after 10 years, it kind of takes it out of you. And I'm sure I'll come back. I think I could come back. I don't know where else I'd see myself, but right now I just need a little break. And I've decided that I'm gonna move to Mexico. I really want to learn Spanish. I've been learning for a while, but I really want to be like fully fluent. And I just feel like Mexico City is a place that I really want to be and explore. And I guess all this to say that like, if you're not happy somewhere, you should leave. And there's no timelines. Timelines are fake and they're bullshit. And like, you can do whatever you want, whatever time you want. And I feel like I'm like pressing the restart button on my life, and I'm really excited about the unknown. Like I have no idea what's gonna happen when I move there. And I'm like at that age where it's like, okay, early 30s. Everyone's settling down, having kids, buying a house with their husband. And I'm like, I don't have any of those things. And it's kind of freeing because I can just decide in the middle of a week that I want to move to Mexico. Excellent use of free will.
All right, quick update. Our first 30 days of living in Mexico has been an absolute dream. Seriously though, it's been a lot of fun. We've learned a lot, and it's been a pretty easy transition. And if you're just tuning in, we moved from Houston to Puerto Vallarta in Mexico. We sold all of our shit, we rented our house out, we packed a suitcase, packed our dogs up, and we moved out here. And we got our temporary residency. We've been working remote for the past couple years, so it really hasn't been that big of a change as far as like day-to-day stuff. Just a couple things that we've noticed so far is like expenses have dropped. I mean, we were kind of anticipating that, but our housing expense has been cut in half. Trips to the grocery store, I'd say groceries on average about 20%, 30% less. Dining is a lot less expensive, it's probably about 50% less than what we were paying back in the States. And as far as like activities, man, look behind me. I got the jungle back there, and I have the ocean right here. There's always something to do. Services are pretty inexpensive too. Like today, I'm gonna go get a haircut. It's gonna cost me like 12 bucks for a damn good haircut. And another thing that's really been a really strong positive impact is our health. I've already lost like 15 pounds just from being here, from exercising more, walking around everywhere, running, lifting weights. We just joined a gym. We're eating better quality food. So all around, our first month of living in Mexico has been awesome. If you've been thinking about doing the same thing, feel free to give me a follow. I'm going to continue sharing my updates as we go. Peace.
I'm closing my business in Vegas and moving it to Mexico, and here's why. So my husband and I purchased a home in Tijuana that is fully paid off. We don't have to worry about anything there but utilities and the yearly taxes. In the summer, we thought of going out there to fix up our home ourselves to save some money and rent it out once we were done. So since June, we've been living there, and we've actually fell in love with the community, the vibes, the lifestyle. My son even made friends in our little neighborhood. So we came to the decision of just staying there long term. And since June, I've been traveling back and forth because my nail salon is here in Vegas. So on the weekends, I would travel to Vegas, stay for the weekend, and then travel back to Tijuana Monday through Friday. Ever since we decided that we were going to stay out there long term, I had to make a decision because doing this isn't sustainable. Traveling back and forth, it does take a toll on me. It's a lot. So I decided to close down the nail salon here in Vegas and move it to Tijuana. The economy out there, guys, is booming. They're building a lot of infrastructure. There's a lot of investment money going into the city, and I feel like if I get in now, it's going to be good for me. I know a lot of you aren't going to understand and are going to have a lot to say, but at the end of the day, it's what makes sense and what makes me and my little family happy at the moment. And if I have the means to do it and I can do it, why not?
Welcome to my apartment in Mazatlan, Mexico. I'm Janet Blazer. I'm 65. I live in Mazatlan, Mexico in a 2-bedroom apartment about half a minute from the beach. My rent is $420 a month, which is about 8,500 pesos. So my move-in costs were basically first month's rent and a month's security, so $840 total. I'm a retired journalist. I still do a little bit of freelance writing here and there, but mostly my time is my own. I like to surf, I go to the beach, I hang out with friends, and I just do whatever I want.
5 reasons why I chose to move to Mexico. And number 5 is the reason that I continue to stay. Number 1 is pretty obvious, the cost of living. I pay $300 a month for my apartment, which would have cost me probably about $1,800 in the States. Also, getting dental work or medical help is so much cheaper than anything I've experienced in the States, as well as food, and the cost of everything is about a quarter of what I was paying in the States. Number 2 is the climate. It's really lovely and warm basically all the time. Right now, since it's August, it's especially hot and humid, but I prefer this weather over the cold, drizzly gray of Oregon any day of the week. And I should mention that Mexico's climate is pretty diverse. I've been to mountain towns where the climate is so similar to Oregon, where it was raining and cold and kind of humid and there's moss on everything. So it depends on where you are. Obviously, I'm on the ocean, so it's a little more humid and warm here. Number 3 is pretty obvious, the food. No matter what restaurant I've been to, I've always had the freshest, best tasting food I've ever had. And going to the market here, everything is so fresh. There's no Cisco food. I hate restaurants that buy their food from Cisco. But here, there's none of that. Everything's so fresh. It's just amazing. So number 4 is the proximity back home to my family. I could have gone to Bali, I could have gone to other South American countries, but Mexico, there's so many flights, and there's a direct flight right back to Portland to see my mom. It just kind of made it a no-brainer just to come here, because a day's travel and I'm back to visit my family, and a day's travel, I'm back home. Okay, number 5, and the reason I continue to stay here when I could literally go anywhere else in the world, any other town, any other country, anywhere, and it's the people. I've legit made more friends here in the 10 months that I've been in Zihuatanejo than I had in the 5 years in the city I was in formerly. And I had I had 2 businesses in the last city I was in, and I have more genuine friends here than I ever did. And 90% of my friends are native Mexicans, and they're the warmest, most welcoming, loving, they actually know how to love and be genuine people. And this is something I didn't experience back home, so it's really lovely to have been invited into this community and feel like I'm home. So if you like this video, like and follow for more.
Oh, I'm gonna love this one. So welcome to another episode of Karina's Walk and Talk, where we do some walking and some talking around my beautiful neighborhood here in Mexico. The palm trees is over here just getting all in my way, but here we go. So if you've ever been wondering what Mexico is really like from someone who lives here, has lived here for almost 4 years and loves it here, then you've stumbled upon the right video. Let me start with a short answer. I love my life here in Mexico. I've been living in Mexico since January 20th, 2021. Mexico was supposed to be just a short pit stop until I moved back to China. So I had been living in China for 2 years, came back, the pandemic happened, China closed their borders, and everyone who I knew was like, girl, come to Mexico. By the time China reopened their borders, I was like, baby, I done fell in love with this country. I ain't going nowhere. So I have lived in the United States, my native country. I've lived in Thailand, China, and now I live in Mexico. So of these 4 countries, Mexico is the one country that genuinely feels like home, outside of my native country, of course, because I have family and friends there. When I lived in China, and I would come home every 4.5, 5 months, right? I would get on the plane and I would just be so happy to go home. I would then, a month later, get on the plane to return to China, and I would be devastated. I'd be crying. Buenos dias. It's the complete opposite with Mexico. When I get on the plane to return back to the United States, I have anxiety. I'm like, I can't tell you how many times I was supposed to get on the plane and I just canceled the ticket and was like, I'm not going. Coming back, it's just like this feeling of relief, like I'm going home. And this is the first country that's done it for me outside of the United States. I want to be clear in saying that this is my personal experience, which means nothing to some people, because I have noticed I can come on here and share my personal experience and people will come in the comment section and say, that ain't true, that ain't happened. That's a lot. Tell them what it's really like. Tell them about the cartel. Tell them about corruption. I can't speak to you about things that are not my personal experience. But when we talk about corruption, we talk about crime, Mexico is an entire country. It's not a city. And I think people often forget that these places are entire countries. They're entire continents. And so, buenos dias, no matter what, like, hey, can I help you? Don't you see me talking to my people about how great your country is and you're over here whistling to me. But no te importa, no sé. When I was driving my car down, right, I did do a lot of research and I realized that most of the danger was closest to the border. There are several different entry points from Mexico into the United States and vice versa. I traveled 4 hours out of the way because several of the points that are closest to the United States are very dangerous. What does that say? The United States, any area that is connected to the United States usually has an issue. But even my child's father, he works with foreigners every day, and he's like, at least once or twice every week, someone from a different country is like, well, what should I do if I'm approached by the cartel? And he's like, listen, they're not pressed about approaching you. And if you were so happen to be the lucky person that gets approached, whatever they're trying to give you, say no. That's why when people are like, well, how do you deal with the cartel? What do you do? They don't walk around with a scarlet C on their chest. So I can't identify them, and I'm not interested in doing so. But what I do is I mind my business. We have to learn to mind our business. The fact that a felon was just elected as our next president, that doesn't scream corruption to you? And people will get on here and say, no, that's democracy. Okay, we turn a blind eye to corruption within our own borders. All right, so how am I treated? I think I'm treated really well. When it comes to Mexico and many other countries, I think it's less about racism and more about classism and colorism. Racism, colorism, and classism are not the same. This is the one thing I do struggle with. My Spanish is not even close to where I think it should be. And some people are gonna be like, oh, you gotta immerse yourself. All of my friends, except for one, are Mexicans, and I mean like local Mexicans. My ex-boyfriend that I have been talking to and dating on and off for 3 years, Mexican. The church that I attend every Sunday, Spanish-speaking church. Well, the pastor's Dominican, but most of the congregation, Mexican. What else? Private school that I teach at, Mexican and or native Spanish speakers. Most of them prefer speaking to me in English, and that is a struggle too. I was dating this one guy. This was in May, and he didn't speak any English. And I mean, that was perfect for me. We spoke the language of love. Then found out he was married. His wife started messaging me. I was like, oh, baby, I didn't sign up for this. Mexico was never on my radar of places to visit until the pandemic. But the reason why I wasn't interested in visiting Mexico is because of the media. I was just like, I'm not going up there and being kidnapped by the cartel. Come to find out, the cartel wasn't even caring about me. But yeah, basically, I love my life here. I can't see me living anywhere else. I'm currently a temporary resident. I plan to become a permanent resident in 2026 because it takes 4 years. I want to buy a house here and hurry up and maybe pop out a baby or two before the eggs dried up. But other than that, just living life.
Why are Americans suddenly moving to Mexico? I arrived to Mexico City for the first time, and one thing I always heard about this place is
the country of Mexico is killing us. I want to build a wall.
I come from the other side of the wall. But for me, it's always been Mexicans wanting to move to the United States for a better life and more opportunities. But after coming here, I have realized that this is not exactly the case. You see, Mexico City is a city that truly never sleeps, filled with life, colors, and music with endless opportunity. It's literally a place where you never get bored. And it turns out, for the last 5 years, Americans have been moving here at an insane rate.
Mexico City is an incredible city. People are wonderful, the food's great, the weather's great. How many of your friends have come here? Probably like all of them.
And while some people see this as a good thing and a pump in the country's economy, others see it as gentrification. Gentrification is basically when you have a huge influx of people coming to one place who are richer and are willing to pay more, which makes life more expensive. And this is exactly what's happening in Mexico opposite. And it's not only that, small elements of life change too. Local restaurants are now making things less spicy for the newcomers in Mexico, and the vibrant cultural street music is now labeled as disruptive and annoying. For me, being an outsider, I find it really ironic how suddenly the American dream is available in Mexico City. I travel and I make videos about what I find interesting. Follow to see the rest of my journey.
My name is Adelia Borishade. I am 48 years old. I quit my teaching job in the US and now I live in Mexico City. I make significantly less money than I did living in the US, but I work fewer hours. I am less stressed. And overall, my life is just filled with much more positivity and joy. I love my life. My dream life is almost the antithesis of what we consider to be the dream life in America. It's not about accumulating wealth. It's about having control over my time. That is my dream life. My financial priorities are funded first, and then I don't worry about how the rest of the money is spent. But having income as an entrepreneur that goes up and down each month, that keeps things exciting, keeps me on my toes. When I left the US and was living on less money, that made me reevaluate kind of everything. I looked at the money I'd set aside for retirement, and all of a sudden, FIRE, financial independence, retire early, became an option when it was not an option previously. Looking at my numbers, turns out that I had already achieved CoSpire. So I have enough money saved and invested for retirement. The money that I make now, I can just live on. So saving isn't a top priority.
So I was born and raised in the United States, but ever since I can remember, I wanted to live abroad. I knew that there was a life for me outside of Ohio, so I did it. I've been living outside of the United States for the last almost 10 years. I made Mexico my home for the last 6 years, and here's how it happened and what I would tell anyone who's looking around at things in the United States right now thinking maybe it's time for something different. In 2016, I landed a remote job with a travel company. I was getting paid to live and work all over the world, and that experience really solidified that I wanted to live abroad. It gave me a lot of experience seeing and meeting people who had vastly different lives than what I was taught was the norm in the United States, and it allowed me to see that you can find success and happiness living a lot of different ways in a lot of different places with different priorities than maybe what we were taught in the United States are the most important. So fast forward a few years, I end up here in Puerto Escondido, Mexico, where I currently live, still working remotely for that travel company. Came here for a little bit of beach relaxation time, but after a few days, I realized that I wasn't leaving. Things just fell into place here. Like, I met the right people. I felt it was where I was supposed to be. The slow pace of life was what I needed at the time. And so I decided to move here. But like, what does that actually look like? And what does it mean to leave the United States and move abroad? One, I had a remote job. I still do. I think it's the quickest way to move abroad and continue making money. Two, it's way more intimidating to move somewhere that you've never been before. I came to Puerto, I know, only for a few days before I decided to move here and live here, but I would have never picked a random small Mexican beach town off a map and say, hey, I'm gonna pick up my life and move there. It's really helpful if you can go to a few places that maybe you're curious about and see what the life is like there, lifestyle is like there before you're like, I'm moving my life here. Three, don't overcomplicate it. You don't necessarily need a 5-year plan. You need a visa that lets you stay, a way to support yourself, and curiosity. For me, Mexico has temporary residency visa options. That's what I did. And then that, after 4 years, turned into my permanent residency visa, which I have now. And then my fourth piece of advice has to do with research. Do it, but don't let it paralyze you, right? The logistics are gonna work themselves out. I came here to Mexico without knowing a word of Spanish, and now I speak the language. I came here not knowing a single person who lived in Puerto Escondido, and now I have friends that feel like family, community that feels like family here. So let me know if you guys have more questions specifically about like any of the parts of moving abroad or living outside of the United States because I love talking about it.
Okay, I get asked all the time, why did my husband and I move to Mexico in 2019? So let's talk about it. So I will say the Trump administration was a reason, but definitely not the reason. For a little background, I was born on the US-Mexico border in a small town, and I grew up as a kid coming down to Mexico all the time. My grandma lived here for a bit, and I would come down as a kid and visit her. It was never something that felt super foreign to me. It was always something that I really loved. And then while in university, I studied international studies with a focus on Latin America. I spent some time studying abroad in Oaxaca in southern Mexico. And I spent my summers backpacking solo all throughout Mexico and Central America. So then fast forward several years, I was living in Portland, Oregon, where I met my husband, and I've always wanted to come back and live in Mexico, both for a slower pace of life, but also for an adventure, a time as an adult where I can really sit and become fluent in Spanish, which I've studied for so many years, but I really just wanted to immerse myself. So I convinced my husband. I accidentally deleted the rest of that video, but here, 7 years later, we are still here, and it is the best decision we have ever made. Y aún no hablo español con fluidez, pero ahí voy.